Bronte. I work with young professionals just like you to help you find your true purpose and guide you towards building your confidence so that you can step outside your comfort zone and go for the goals that are currently on your heart but feel too big or too scary. And I help you stop worrying about what other people think, help you stop worrying about fear of rejection and fear of failure. I believe that everyone, just like you, is a queen or a king and ruler of their own destiny. You just need to stop waiting around for someone else to crown your head and crown your own darn head instead. So, welcome to Confidence in 10. These are top tips to build your confidence today in just 10 minutes. Today, I want to share some lessons with you that I learned recently from the amazing Brendon Burchard. He is, if you haven't heard of him, the #1 high performance coach in the world. If you don't already follow him everywhere like I do, I highly recommend you go do that after watching this video. So recently I was watching one of his trainings and he absolutely blew my mind after explaining the 3 phases of a crisis. So these 3 phases are not my own idea, but how they relate to building your confidence, and its interpretation of what he taught is all my own thoughts. So this applies to personal crises such as breaking up, losing a job, being physically or mentally hurt, losing someone you love, anything like that. Or it can be applied to global crises such as pandemic, inflation, recession, war, law changes, all the things we might be thinking about right now. So much negative thinking out there, and I don't want to stay on that negative flow too long because that's some low frequency stuff that I'm not into and I don't want to attract it. But applied knowledge is power, so understanding a crisis in 3 phases is to your advantage, which is why I'm here sharing it with you today. It gives you the upper hand to move through a crisis with confidence when they do hit, because they will, despite all the uncertainty going on. And of course, crisis could be big, can be small, can be anything. But these are the 3 phases, and trust me, when you hear this, you're going to be like, as I did. And it's going to make all the feelings we've collectively felt over the last 2 to 3 years make sense. So let's get into it. Phase 1, shock and safety. This is where we can't believe what has just happened. We feel a lot of resistance taking over our bodies. We hoard toilet paper, anyone? We shut up and we live in fear. We don't know how to move forward. It's very scary. Things are changing and we hate it and we resist it and we're just scared of it because it's unknown, it's uncertain. We haven't been through it before. And we just don't want things to change. We're creatures of habit. We hate change. We try to pretend things aren't changing and hold out on accepting what is. Did someone say 2020? Sounds a lot like that. So when you're going through a crisis or just a big change in your life, you start to feel all of these things. Learn to accept that these feelings are okay. It's normal and it's what makes you human. If you didn't feel these things when a crisis hit, you'd be like, are they a robot? Like, how come they're not scared? So don't try to rush your way through phase 1. Embrace it. Sit with it. You need to process and adjust to all these big changes. But knowing and understanding what you're going through gives you power. Phase 1 isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. That old saying. So you can adapt to the big changes happening. So next time a crisis or a big change happens and you start freaking out and getting scared, you just take a step back and say, hello, phase 1. I see that you're here. Let's take some time to process and work through all of the emotions we're feeling right now. But of course, there's a lot of stress and heightened emotions in this state. So by the time you're actually calm enough to step back and realize that you're in phase 1, you may actually already be in phase 2. So what is phase 2? It is coping and well-being. This is a transition phase. We want to start to ask ourselves, who am I in this new world, in this change, in this new situation? We do our best to cope and to deal with the situation at hand. We focus on well-being, healing, stress management. Our mental well-being takes top priority. We try to heal from the stress that we've experienced in phase 1. We take time to figure things out, become more aware of the situation and all the options that we have now. This is a time for journaling and meditation and yoga and healing and expressing our feelings in just any way that feels suitable to us. There's also a lot of noise and distraction going on in this phase. There's so many choices and options to be made. So again, we can get still a little overwhelmed in this phase. If this is a larger crisis affecting more people, then they'll all be trying to figure out things too in their own way, which only adds to the noise, right? It's not just all your options, it's other people's options, and it just becomes a whole lot of noise. As much as we try to figure things out, we still experience discouragement because of all this noise going on. We question, like, why me? Why is this happening to me? We're overwhelmed and exhausted from dealing with this crisis for so long. And this phase is a lot like 2021. So when the why me phase hits you, remind yourself that it's happening to prepare you, that you can lead others with empathy to give you more courage to progress further. Your mess is in your message. I'm sure you've heard that before. No matter how hard this crisis, whatever it may be, is for you, it equips you to help others who go through a similar crisis in the future. Of course, if this crisis happens again to you, you'll also have more confidence about how to approach it, and you'll heal faster, you'll move through the phases faster as you've been there before. So if you're experiencing something right now, can you look to people who've already experienced this crisis before and seek help from them? Going back to the pandemic, we turn to statistics and stories from the Spanish flu and the polio to guide us, or guide the professionals who are making the big decisions, guided them as to how to better deal with this crisis than they did in previous crises. So lastly is phase 3, and this is progression, aka 2022, where we are right now. You can either choose to enter this phase willingly, or it will be forced upon you. You have no choice. Phase 3 always comes, and no one likes to be dragged kicking and screaming. But either way, things will change, and they won't be the same again. This is where we saw the ramp up of the digital evolution through the pandemic, people working from home, and companies, once we transitioned out, companies either chose to let employees continue to keep working at home, or they were forced to keep letting employees continue to work at home, as they just refused to return to the office, or there was, the ongoing sickness and close contact of employees that prevented them from returning, no matter how much the business wanted them back in the office. We've seen conferences and business trips and meetings change the world of Zoom. We've had contactless buying and delivery taken off, and businesses that weren't accessible online beforehand had to find a way to get online. We've had to progress and change in so many ways, such a short space of time. You either chose to get on board with all that, or it was forced upon you. Either way, I'm sure your business or businesses you've interacted with have had some sort of digital revolution over the past few years, because you just had to enter the transition phase and get on board with the new world. And after a period of healing, this phase involves a lot of movement and action. But it also sparks inspiration and productivity as we start to progress, as we try to figure out, how can I best cope in this new world and this new revolution? And it's not just pandemic. This isn't any big change, but it's obviously easy to talk about the pandemic because we can all relate to it, because we all went through it, right? No one escaped it. This is a time to be courageous and be a leader, to take bold action and build your confidence again, to move forward, to be a leader in the next phase, in the next new world. Because if you don't, you're going to get stuck and left behind in the old world, and you're going to get dragged along, kicking and screaming, and no one wants to be there. So if you're feeling stuck and resisting the move and the progression forward, find something that will make you want to move. As humans, we will only do so much for ourselves. To find a way to channel your energy into serving someone else, and that will get you moving. There is nothing more fulfilling than service. And after a period of crisis, you'll be looking for some sort of fulfillment to make you feel better again. So find a way to help and serve others who experience the crisis that you just went through, so that they don't have to suffer as much as you did. So speaking of the pandemic, there's a lot of people that moved through to phase 3 faster, and they turned around and helped the others that were still stuck, come on board with the new world. So help someone else get through the 3 phases stronger and faster. Helping and teaching someone else also builds your confidence and your ability to handle the situation. Find those people stuck in phase 1 or 2 and help them get unstuck. Help them stop resisting the progress and the change. If everyone did that, I think it'd be a pretty cool chain reaction, don't you? So understanding the 3 phases can help you move through a lot of situations with confidence in your life. It doesn't have to be a global pandemic. Like I said, that's just the easiest thing to reference. It could be a small change. Smaller crisis could be changing jobs or moving, relocating, which can still be pretty scary. How often have you had to move somewhere? You're going on holiday or something, you're moving somewhere and you've resisted packing until the very last minute. And that becomes so stressful. And then once you get to the new place, you resist unpacking because it's just not ready to accept that change, right? But sooner or later, the change is going to be forced upon you and you'll have to unpack your new life, right? Wouldn't it be better to just do it by choice and just do it sooner rather than later, rather than by force? So anyway, we've hit the 10 minutes. So I hope you've found this video valuable. I'd love to hear when you've experienced these 3 phases in a crisis for yourself outside of the pandemic, because I know you've all experienced a pandemic. So what revelations did you have? Has this ticked any light bulb moments or any yes, that all makes sense now, like it did for me? So of course, make sure you like this video, but also give the go Brendon Burchard a like and a follow too. So remember, I believe in you. You've got this, and glow on, girlfriend. I'll see you on the next one.